I thought our indoor air quality was really good. And then we installed this guy, the Ultrahuman Home. It's a small little device that measures air quality, light quality, temperature, humidity, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and a lot of things. And after just a few days, it revealed something that was somewhere between surprising and shocking in relation to the quality of the air in our home. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you what this is, why we decided to install it at home, why we decided to, ultimately invest some money and resources into getting this, and what we've learned, and whether or not it might be worthwhile for you to consider adding this Ultrahuman Home to your home as well, to find out how healthy the environment that you live in really is. And maybe I want to preface this with saying that this is only, indoor air quality is one piece of the puzzle. A couple of years ago, my wife and I decided we want to conduct an air quality assessment. So we had someone come, walk around every room, measure, take samples of our air, and kind of give us an idea of how healthy, how dusty, how, everything the air in our home was. And there were many areas for improvement, and so we did. We installed a bipolar ionization technology from HypoAir that can disable or destroy pathogens on contact, like bacteria and viruses. It would clump together ultrafine particles so they can be then filtered out by our HVAC filter or just drop out of the air, where they can be vacuumed up, etc. We installed an air purifier, with Jasper. I have a separate review on this. So we did a lot of things over the years to improve the quality of the air in our home. We use non-VOC paints whenever we paint, all of those things. And nonetheless, it turned out that certain events that happen twice a day, usually in our case, cause a significant degradation in air quality that the Ultrahuman Home pointed out, or unrevealed to us, if I want to say that. The other nuance to that is that this is only one part of the entire health puzzle for us. We use also the Ultrahuman Ring Air to measure sleep metrics and HRV and resting heart rate and all of those things at night in particular and while we work out. Ultrahuman also has a continuous glucose monitor to measure your blood sugar response to food and stress and exercise, etc. And they also have a fairly detailed blood panel called Blood Vision that I recently underwent to really find out what's going on inside me. And Ultrahuman, one thing I like about the brand is that they try to give you a holistic picture of what's going on with your health so you can make informed decisions and take action to improve it, And so just wanted to point this out, that the Ultrahuman Home is just the last, piece of the Ultrahuman puzzle that we decided to add to our home. And a few words about air quality. Even before we get into this, maybe, let me know, how healthy do you think the air inside of your home is? Do you think it's generally healthier than the air outside? And I'm asking this because according to the APA, the indoor air quality is often worse than outdoor air. Maybe that's where the old saying, let's open the window to get some fresh air in, comes from. At least that's what my parents said a lot when I was a kid. Let's get some fresh air in, as if the air inside of the home is not fresh or healthy. Turns out in many cases it's not, because it's often contaminated with, volatile organic compounds from cleaning solutions, from off-gassing furniture, from off-gassing paint, cooking appliances. Any gas burning or combustion appliances can release carbon monoxide, increase CO2 levels. And I think the most important aspect for us really was those very fine particulates. They are called PM1, PM2.5, and PM10, meaning the particulate matter in the 1 micron, 2.5 micron, and 10 micron scope. And those are so fine, often 30 times smaller than a human hair, that can deeply penetrate your lung tissue, your respiratory system, and then cause inflammation and a host of other issues, even leading to, asthma or other autoimmune conditions that are obviously not good for us. So healthy indoor air is important, and so is light, by the way. One of the reasons why we try to avoid blue light in the evening before going to bed, because it can disrupt our circadian rhythm, our melatonin production, and so prevent us from falling asleep and from sleeping well. And obviously then humidity, noise, and temperature are also important factors that make you or not feel comfortable in your home. And so all of these Ultrahuman Home tracks and visualizes and then help you make informed decisions. And so here is the thing. When we installed this device, we figured it's not going to find much because the air in our home is already pretty good. Again, we have the bipolar ionization technology. We have 2 air purifiers, one of them from Jasper that we have in our bedroom, one from HypoAir that we have here in my office here right behind me. And so we are doing a lot of, and we also using a high quality pleated carbon activated charcoal filter in our HVAC system, a fairly thick one with a lot of surface area to catch a lot of stuff that would otherwise just be recycled. So we figured our air is good. And then we noticed that every time we cook, and it doesn't matter whether or not we use a gas stove, our main stove is a gas stove, whether we use that or an electrical countertop oven, we use Brava, I have a separate review on that. In both cases, fine particulate matter, like the PM2.5 in particular, would spike like crazy to unhealthy levels, and CO2 would also spike. And high CO2 levels can obviously then negatively impact your brain function. You might not be as sharp if the CO2 levels are super high. And we noticed those spikes every single time we cooked. And fortunately though, I should also point it out that because of all of the mitigating equipment we have at home, those spikes were relatively short-lived. So we would recover to healthy or optimal air quality levels fairly quickly. But the other thing we notice is, especially with the gas stove, that VOC, volatile organic compounds level, would also occasionally spike, not always dramatically, but every time we use the gas stove, and they would not spike if we used electrical oven. And so the reason for that likely is that when you turn on the gas stove, sometimes it takes a few seconds for the burner to ignite, during which gas is just going into the room and dissipating there. And so those have likely not only methane, but also VOCs that can again over time negatively impact your health. And all of this we've noticed despite of our exhaust fan that we have in the kitchen and the AC running. Despite all of that, there was still that sharp, albeit short-lived spike. And maybe one word on gas stoves, because they can also create nitrogen dioxide and they can leak methane even when they're off. So one of the reasons we're not going to use any more gas appliances in our new home, we are in the process of moving, but at least for now, note that there are other contaminants that the Ultrahuman Home does not measure that can also be problematic. Speaking of this, what does it exactly measure? So I already mentioned, it measures air quality parameters, including carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, PM1, PM2.5, and PM10. So those are the very fine particles. If you inhale them, can get deeply into your lung tissue and even into your bloodstream and cause inflammation and an immune response that, if that happens frequently or chronically, can lead to an autoimmune condition like asthma. Not a good thing. It also measures VOCs, as I've mentioned. So formaldehyde, for example, from cleaning solutions or from off-gassing furniture, etc. It can measure that as well. It measures temperature, humidity, which is an important indicator of how comfortable you feel at home. It also measures light, and that's interesting as a light sensor up here. I'm not sure if you can see it. That's, I think, is what looks like the light sensor. And it measures the different frequencies of light. So it measures how much red light, infrared, green, and blue light you're exposed, and how much UV, the different UVA, B, and C you're exposed as well, because that can have an implication on your circadian rhythm. If you're exposed to a lot of blue and green light frequencies at night before going to bed, maybe because you have, artificial lights on, etc., or, a lot of screens, that can negatively impact your circadian rhythm and impact your sleep and your health over time and overall. But it can also measure, especially if you have it near a window, maybe how much UV light you're exposed to. Now, I'm a huge fan of UV and natural sun exposure because it's important for hormone production, for testosterone production, etc., for all of those things, for vitamin D production, obviously. But again, too much can be detrimental to your health. So it measures that as well. And it takes all of this into context and gives you a very nice overview. You get an overall home or environmental rating, but you can get an individual ranking scores for each of those, for light, for air quality, for, the temperature, etc. All of this, it gives you very convenient in your app. And so we've really been surprised by finding out the cooking aspect. And so I'm like, okay, what can we do about this? Now, one thing I should point out is that the exhaust fan in that vent hood that we have is arguably undersized for the size of our gas stove, I would argue. And also it's fairly old and fairly loud, especially if you operate it at a higher fan speed. And so we typically don't do that because it's just incredibly loud. And so one of the things that we're gonna improve going forward is to have just a more quiet but larger fan that moves more air in the new house, that can just get a lot of the air out. Obviously, don't forget then you need a separate air inlet, because air needs to come from someone. Otherwise, you're gonna create negative pressure in your home, and it might leak air from places you don't want to, like dirty crawl spaces and stuff, but that's a different topic. We also likely gonna cook just more outside. We're gonna have a nice deck with a grill and everything, and an outdoor kitchen where we're gonna cook more, so that all of those gases and potential pollutants, just we don't inhale them or we inhale less, because they dissipate into the ambient air quicker. We also gonna have likely a better and more appropriately zoned HVAC system. Right now we only have a single HVAC unit that is not only a potential problem from an air circulation and filtration perspective, but also from a just comfort perspective, because our house is 2 levels, 1 AC unit, cold air sinks, warm air rises, so it's always about 10 degrees colder downstairs than it is upstairs. Not ideal, so we sometimes turn it off, which means then potentially the fan is not running either and it filters less. So an appropriately zoned HVAC system is what we're gonna do. An oversized exhaust fan in the kitchen with makeup air, and we do all electric appliances. That's another thing. We no more gas, so no more potential for leaks, for nitrogen dioxide, for VOCs that you might get into your house, and then you have to mitigate them. It's just better not to have them, period. And so that's why we're going to switch to, let's say an induction kind of appliance for our cooking surface. And that, especially combined with solar powered or solar panels and batteries, is also likely going to be more cost effective down the line. And of course, from a paint and stain and flooring perspective, low VOC furniture, that's, furniture, most people don't notice, but they're a major source of off-gassing, especially if you buy them brand new, off-gas, and then those VOCs can cause issues. And then obviously we're going to maximize window size and window area, so we have as much natural sunlight coming in that is more circadian friendly than artificial sources of flickering LEDs. In combination with cooking outside, it's going to make a significant improvement. How much? We will find out by using this device. Now, the Ultrahuman Home, I want to say, is not inexpensive. It's about $550 that it retails for now, so it's not inexpensive, but for what it delivers, it's worth it, especially if you've never considered the quality of your indoor air or your environment generally. If you combine air quality, light quality, temperature, humidity, and all of those factors, and noise levels. That's another thing. It measures noise, because if you're chronically exposed to elevated noise levels, that can cause stress. Your nervous system doesn't respond well to chronic noise exposure. That's why living next to a busy street or whatever is not a good thing. So it measures that as well. So overall, it has a bunch of very effective and interesting sensors that can help you get a better understanding how healthy your living environment is, or how healthy the environment is that you spend most time in. Might be your office space. In our case, my wife's home, I work from home, the kids are homeschooled, so we're always at home. So the quality of our living environment and is incredibly important for our health. And so that's why I think this was totally worth it. It has given us a lot of insights. This has confirmed also that our light exposure is good. We have very little blue and green light in the evening. We confirmed a lot of things that we thought we were doing right, but we also figured out that, hey, cooking causes a major, albeit short-lived, drop in air quality. And so that's something we can work on and improve to hopefully maintain optimal health for a very long time. With that, we're going to wrap this up. Ultrahuman Home, it's one of the several puzzle pieces that Ultrahuman offers to help you get a good understanding of how healthy you are, and more importantly, what you can do to improve your health or to maintain optimal health levels. With that, we're going to wrap it up. Let me know what you think about this device. Is it worth $500 or not? Let me know in the comments, and until next time.